It seems like things have been a little slow lately, and well, admittedly, I find myself scrolling just a bit too much. Massive lighting setups, crazy VFX, whatever this is. Huh. Okay, filmmaking gear is expensive. No shit. Lighting especially is always a bit of a tough pill to swallow, so I decided to go on Amazon and find some of the cheapest lighting gear, or things that can work as lighting gear, to see what we can do to practice some lighting and improve our cinematography. And honestly, kind of shocked at how good some of this stuff works. Easily one of my favorite lighting tools to use because of how versatile they can be are mirrors. Something about being able to harness the power of natural light to precisely light a space is just so satisfying. Being able to redirect and reflect light sources in unique and interesting ways. Mirrors can create some incredible looking light quality. These reflectors from Lightbridge or Dedolight are kind of like the industry standard. Incredible build quality, a rock solid mounting system, come in different sizes and different strengths, and oh yeah, they're like $1,500. You can get a pack of these cheap acrylic mirrors in a ton of different sizes. They're really not that bad and still work pretty well. I grabbed a cheap little baby pin wall plate adapter to mount on the back of the mirror, just with some gaff tape, so I can get this onto a stand. Now, the major difference between these and something like the CRLS, those aren't technically just mirrors. They have like an ultra refined reflective finish that come in a bunch of different strengths, each one allowing for harder or softer light. A straight up mirror creates like a pretty intense hot spot. Can definitely look a little weird if you're not careful on how you aim it or place it. But I did some digging around and found this clear frosted spray paint that's meant for glass to like add a nice diffusion. I don't know, I figured this could probably get us pretty close. Doesn't really get very good direct sunlight, so just using a couple of mirrors, literally redirecting the sun, creates a pretty nice look. Okay, you can of course do a lot with natural light, but at some point you do need a light or two. Not really any getting around that. The amount of options that are available at this point are pretty overwhelming. Shocker that this is also not a very cheap investment. This thing is a 310 watt bicolor COB light from Came TV for $170. Yeah, okay, so how bad is it? Not at all. In terms of output, just quickly throwing it up against the Forza 300B Mark II, which is a pretty powerful light for the rated output. At 5600, I mean, to me, looks a bit brighter. If we take a look side by side on scopes, you can see, yeah, it's just like a hair brighter maybe. Could be just due to the reflector dish, but Andrew Locke from Gaffer and Gear actually did a full review of this light, and yeah, it's actually really good. Color render scores are just as good as you could ask for. The build quality is actually really impressive. There's a few small quirks, and it's of course AC power only. The power adapter and the whole interface, it's not the best, but honestly, you can't really ask for much more at this price. And you know what? I'm actually gonna give away this light, maybe a couple other things. If you guys wanna win it, leave a comment down below. Go follow me over on Instagram and make sure to leave your Instagram account name in the comment. Another pretty impressive budget option is this little RC60B from Small Rig. For $149, you get a surprisingly powerful little 60 watt COB light with a built-in battery. You'd be surprised how nice this actually is. And something like this works great to complement a larger, more powerful light source, using it as something like a hair light or accent light. Having at least one pretty powerful light in your kit is really, really useful. I think it's pretty important in order to grow as a cinematographer to use more powerful lights and really start pushing your images and manipulating the light within a space. For this shot, I ended up using a Fresnel from Nanlite. You can find cheaper ones on Amazon that can pretty much do the same thing. Basically just to make a more narrow and controlled beam coming into my office. I used the little RC60B to just basically bounce into the wall and kind of lift the ambient level of the shadows just so we're not falling off into complete darkness. Probably one of the easiest ways to completely change the look and feel of your shot is haze. I'm a huge fan of haze, but more often than not, it's not really practical. It's kind of bulky and cumbersome. Fog machines are definitely a cheaper option, but just don't really give the same effect very easily. This tiny little portable fog machine from Ulanzi is pretty amazing, but you kind of still run into the same issue with it being a fog machine and that the fog is just kind of dense, and so you really have to like spend a few minutes wafting it and letting it settle. I just thought, you know, why not add a little fan in front of the nozzle to just like quickly thin and spread out the fog? Well, yeah, it actually works pretty damn well. Playing with the settings of the little fog machine and then the fan speed, you can kind of balance out how much volume of haze you want, and it doesn't even really need to settle. Like, it pretty much gives the look you would want from haze. Add in a controlled light source like this Fresnel on the front of this 300-watt light, and yeah, looks pretty cool. You guys may or may not know, but I have been editing now in DaVinci Resolve for probably like 6 or 7 years. Pretty insane how popular it's becoming and how many people are starting to make the switch. I remember back when I was first starting out trying to figure out the transition, little steep to say the least. But now there is some amazing classes over on Skillshare to help you if you're trying to make the switch. Skillshare is an amazing online learning community with classes for literally anything and everything. Of course, there's stuff with film and cinematography, video production, video editing. I actually have a full Skillshare original series of classes all about this if you guys want to check that out, but so much more. If you're a freelancer trying to build a business, develop better habits and productivity, I've been really loving this class on defeating procrastination from Sarah Edwards. I highly suggest you check out Skillshare. It's just one monthly cost for unlimited access to all the classes. So if you've been thinking about picking something up or learning something new this summer, click the link down below to get a free 1-month trial. Thanks, Skillshare. Overhead frames, diffusion fabrics, solids, rags, all of that stuff. So incredibly useful. You'll pretty much see it on any shoot, but it's kind of always blown my mind how ludicrously expensive they are. This is kind of like a worst case scenario type of a setup. High noon, sun's directly overhead. Lighting an interview shot or exteriors in this is never really ideal. If you want like a frame kit and a handful of fabrics to go with it, you're looking at like $1,500, if not more. I found this really random wedding archway backdrop. I wasn't sure if this was gonna be rigid or strong enough, but I mean, it's basically a 6x6, well, actually 6.6. Pretty much a 6x6 square frame. I actually already own a handful of actual 6x6 rags and bounce and solids, but honestly, bulk fabrics are pretty easy to find. You can make your own. Muslin is actually one of my favorite materials to use for both bounce as well as diffusion. It's easy enough to just drape a sheet of it over just like a long pole on the top of a stand, make kind of like a T-bone. But with this 6x6 overhead frame, you can of course put it overhead. I threw my 6x6 poly silk on the frame, which is a pretty thick diffusion, and kind of angled it over the top of my head to one side to create that far side key for this kind of like interview shot. I ended up using this random white canvas that we just had around the house, kind of just out in front of me and off to the left to give me a little bit of fill as well as like an eye light.
kind of contradictory, but sometimes taking away light can be just as important, if not more important, than adding light to a shot. Now, you might have heard of a thing called negative fill. This is a floppy. It's basically just a square frame that you can put on a stand with black material to remove or block light. The reason they call this thing a floppy, I use it for a lot of my shots, but it's like 150 bucks. These windows are really bright. In order to get this under control, let's just crank up our shutter speed here. You're gonna be somewhere like in this range. It would require a lot of light inside right now to wrap this and expose me properly. In a situation like this, sometimes it's easier to just take away light. This is basically just window tint. Lee is the sort of industry standard that makes like the rolls of ND as well as all the different gels. They're all very photometric, accurate, non-flammable, but a single roll of ND is like $200. I don't know, I kind of figure that like window tint can probably pretty much do the same thing. Not exactly the easiest material to work with. It does seem to get wrinkled pretty easy. Tape it up first and then cut it to length.
Why did it get so windy?
That's one window. It didn't really darken it enough. Man, am I gonna have to double it up? Cool, okay, that's 2 layers. That could probably work. I could probably ND the camera down just a little bit, like that range. Still think the exposure here on me would be good. Just gotta do this side now. I actually ended up not having enough of this material to cover both windows with 2 layers. I actually just reframed the shot to use more of the window behind me and less of the window to the left. And then I brought in some of that black material that we bought as negative fill, just to add a little bit more shadow and shape on the side of my face. It looks pretty good. I'm not super in love with this shot, but the whole point of this one was to really just show that you don't always need lights. In some cases, it just means controlling the light within your space and shaping, flagging off, bouncing light, adding more negative fill. And I hope that this gives you guys some ideas on how you can potentially improve the quality of some of your lighting setups with pretty inexpensive tools. Anyways, make sure you leave a comment if you want to win the light or potentially some other stuff. I gotta decide what I can do with all of it. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, or I haven't said that and I don't even know how long. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one.